They say the eyes are windows to the soul. But no one tells you that tears can be doorways to the past. When the Alpha King's claws pierced my chest, marking me for execution at dawn, I didn't beg for mercy. I didn't scream. I simply wept, and those tears, shimmering with ancient moonlight, showed him a truth that shattered his world. I was the mate he'd mourned for 300 years. The Luna he'd buried. The love he'd killed once before. And now he was about to make the same fatal mistake twice. My name is Adelheid Brunner, and this is the story of how I died, lived, and died again. All for a king who couldn't remember how to love. But before I take you into the darkness of that dungeon, before I show you the moment everything changed, I need you to do something for me. If this story speaks to your soul, if you believe in second chances and love that transcends time itself, subscribe and turn on notifications. There are secrets woven into this tale that only the most dedicated listeners will catch. And please, tell me the city you're watching from so I can send you a hug, because we're about to go on an emotional journey together, and I want to know where my pack is listening from. Drop your city in the comments. Now, let's begin where all tragic love stories do, with blood on the moon. The dungeons beneath Castle Rutley smelled of wet stone and despair. I'd been here for 3 days, ever since they dragged me from the border territories, accusing me of espionage for the Shadow Fong pack. 3 days without food. 3 days of silence broken only by the drip of water from invisible cracks in the ancient walls. 3 days of waiting for death. I should have been terrified. Any rational wolf would have been. But there was something almost peaceful about knowing the end was near. For 23 years I'd felt like a ghost in my own life. Never quite belonging, never quite whole. The other wolves in my small pack could sense it, that hollow place inside me where something vital should have been. They called me broken, cursed. Some whispered I was better off dead. Perhaps they were right. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed down the corridor, and I lifted my head from where I'd been resting against the damp wall. Multiple guards, their boots striking the stone in perfect synchronization. Military precision. That meant someone important was coming. My execution was scheduled for dawn. Still hours away. Had they decided to move it up? The footsteps stopped outside my cell. Keys jangled. The iron door swung open with a groan that sounded like a dying animal. And then he stepped inside. Alpha King Ulrich Waldman. I'd never seen him in person before. Few had. He ruled the entire werewolf nation from his fortress in the mountains, appearing only for the most critical matters of state. The stories painted him as a monster, cold, merciless, consumed by a rage that had burned for centuries. They said he'd killed his own mate in a fit of madness 300 years ago and had never forgiven himself. That guilt had transformed him into something barely human, barely wolf. A creature of pure vengeance and duty. Looking at him now, I understood why people feared him. He was tall, impossibly tall, with broad shoulders that seemed to fill the entire doorway. His hair was the color of winter frost, pulled back from a face that could have been carved from marble. Sharp cheekbones, a strong jaw covered in dark stubble, and eyes. Gods, his eyes. They were the pale blue of glacial ice, and just as cold, just as unforgiving. He wore black from head to toe. Black leather, black cloak, black boots that probably cost more than my entire village. Around his neck hung a silver pendant shaped like a crescent moon, the symbol of his authority. On his hands, silver rings glinted in the torchlight, each one etched with ancient runes of power. But it was the aura of dominance that truly took my breath away. It rolled off him in waves, pressing against my chest like a physical weight. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to submit, to bare my throat, to acknowledge his supremacy. I'd heard of alphas who could command obedience with their presence alone. I'd never believed it until this moment. Adelheid Brunner. His voice was deep, resonant, with an accent that spoke of old money and older bloodlines. Stand. My legs obeyed before my mind could process the command. I found myself on my feet, swaying slightly from 3 days of weakness. The chains around my wrists rattled. He moved closer and I caught his scent, pine and winter storms and something darker, something that made my wolf stir for the first time in years. She'd been dormant for so long I'd almost forgotten what it felt like to have her presence in my mind. Now she was pushing forward, curious, agitated. "Do you know why you're here?" he asked. "I was found near the Shadow Fong border." My voice came out steady, surprisingly strong. "They think I'm a spy." "Are you?" "No." His eyes narrowed. "Then what were you doing there?" The truth was complicated. The truth was that I'd been following dreams, vivid, haunting visions that had plagued me for months. Dreams of running through ancient forests, of a love so intense it burned, of betrayal and blood and a promise made beneath a full moon. Dreams that felt more like memories. Dreams that always ended the same way, with silver claws piercing my heart. I'd followed those dreams to the border, searching for answers I couldn't name. And I'd been caught. But I couldn't tell him that. He'd think me mad. So instead I said, I was running away. From what? From a life that never felt like mine. Something flickered in those ice-blue eyes. Not sympathy. I don't think he was capable of that anymore. But perhaps recognition. As if he understood what it meant to be trapped in an existence that no longer fit. The moment passed. His expression hardened again. "You were found with Shadow Fong markings on your bag. Maps of our territory. Correspondence with known enemies of the crown. Those were planted." I stepped forward and the chains pulled taut. "I've never even been to Shadow Fong lands. I don't know anyone from that pack. Someone is setting me up. That's what they all say. Then investigate. Question me under truth serum. Read my memories. There are ways to verify. I don't have time for investigations." He turned away, his cloak sweeping behind him. "The evidence is clear. You're a traitor. Traitors die." My heart hammered against my ribs. "So you came down here just to tell me that? To look at the prisoner before she's executed? Does that help you sleep at night?" He spun back to face me, and the fury in his eyes made me step back despite myself. "You dare." "I dare because I have nothing left to lose." The words burst out of me. 3 days of frustration and fear and strange, inexplicable longing all tangled together. "You've already decided I'm guilty. You're going to kill me at dawn. So yes, I dare. I dare to look my executioner in the eye and tell him he's wrong. I dare to die with dignity instead of groveling. And I dare to ask why the great Alpha King bothers to visit a lowly prisoner in her cell unless there's something about this that bothers him too." Silence fell between us, thick and charged. The guards at the door shifted uncomfortably. No one spoke to the king like that. No one challenged him and lived. But Ulrich didn't strike me down. Instead, he studied me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. His nostrils flared slightly, as if he was scenting the air. "Scenting me. You smell wrong," he said finally. "Excuse me. Your scent. It's..." He frowned, the expression making him look younger, less like a monster and more like a man. "Familiar. But that's impossible." My wolf pushed harder against my consciousness, whining. She wanted closer to him. Wanted to touch him. The feeling was so strong, so unexpected that I gasped. "What is it?" Ulrich demanded. "I don't know." My hands trembled. The chains clinked. "My wolf. She's never reacted to anyone like this before. She's never reacted at all. I thought she was broken." His expression changed. The coldness cracked, just for a moment, revealing something raw beneath. "Show me your wolf." "I can't. She won't come forward fully. She hasn't since I was a child." "Try." It wasn't a request. It was a command backed by centuries of authority and alpha power. My body responded instinctively. I reached for my wolf, calling her forward the way I'd tried thousands of times before, always failing. But this time she surged upward with a force that took my breath away. My bones began to shift. My skin rippled. The transformation that had always been impossible suddenly felt as natural as breathing. But before it could complete, before I could cross that threshold, pain exploded through my body. I screamed and collapsed to my knees, the chains holding me upright. "Stop!" Ulrich's voice cut through the agony. "Don't force it." The shift reversed, leaving me gasping and shaking on the cold stone floor. Tears streamed down my face, not from pain, but from the overwhelming emotion of almost finally connecting with my wolf, of almost being whole. "There's a block," I whispered. "Something's stopping her." Ulrich knelt beside me. This close, his scent overwhelmed my senses. This close, I could see that his eyes weren't just blue, they had flecks of silver in them like stars in a winter sky. This close, I could feel the heat radiating from his body, taste the power that hummed through his veins. "How long have you been blocked?" he asked quietly. "Since I was 6. After my parents died." His hand reached out, hovering near my face but not quite touching. "What happened to them?" "They were executed. For treason." I laughed bitterly. "I guess it runs in the family." "What were their names?" "Heidi and Bruno Brunner. They lived in the Eastern Territories. I don't remember much about them, just feelings, warmth, safety. And then they were gone, and I was alone, and my wolf never came back properly." Ulrich's hand dropped. He stood abruptly and stepped back, his face carefully blank. "The execution proceeds at dawn. Make peace with your gods." He turned to leave, and something inside me snapped. Maybe it was the lingering connection with my wolf. Maybe it was the way he'd looked at me for just a moment like I was something precious. Maybe it was the absolute certainty that if he walked away now, I'd die with 1,000 questions unanswered and a hole in my soul that would follow me into whatever came after death. "I've seen you before," I called out. He paused at the doorway but didn't turn around. "In my dreams. For months now. We're in a forest and there's moonlight and you're different. Younger. Happier. You're holding me and you're promising me forever, and I believe you. I believe you with everything I am." My voice broke. "And then you kill me. Every time. You put your claws through my heart, and I die looking into your eyes, wondering how love turned to murder so quickly." Now he turned. Slowly. His face was pale. His eyes wide with something that looked like horror. "That's impossible," he breathed. "I know. But it's true. And when I look at you now, when I smell your scent and feel your presence, it's like remembering something I never actually experienced. Like déjà vu but stronger. Like my soul knows you even though my mind doesn't." He crossed the space between us in 2 long strides. His hand shot out and grabbed my chin, forcing me to meet his gaze. His grip was firm but not painful. His eyes searched mine with desperate intensity. "What color were her eyes?" he demanded. "Whose eyes?" "In your dreams. The woman I kill. What color are her eyes?" "Gold," I whispered. "Like honey in sunlight. Like yours." His thumb brushed my cheekbone, wiping away a tear I hadn't realized had fallen. "Exactly like yours." The tear clung to his skin, glowing faintly in the dim light of the cell. We both stared at it. Because it wasn't just a tear. It was luminescent, shimmering with an inner light that pulsed in rhythm with my heartbeat. And in that tiny drop of salt water and sorrow, images began to form. Forest clearing. 2 wolves, one silver, one black, circling each other. A woman with golden eyes and dark hair laughing as a man with frost-colored hair spun her in a dance. The same couple beneath a full moon, their hands clasped, their foreheads touching, making vows in the old language. The woman's stomach swollen with pregnancy. The man's face twisted in rage and grief. Silver claws rising. Blood on snow. The images faded, but the glow remained. Ulrich stared at that single tear as if it held the answers to every question he'd ever asked. His hand trembled. "Gisela," he whispered. "My Gisela. Iluna. My mate." He raised his eyes to mine, and the ice that had lived in them for 300 years began to crack. "It's you. It's been you all along." You came back. You came back to me. And then the Alpha King, the most powerful wolf in our nation, the monster of legend, collapsed to his knees before me and wept. They say that when a true mate dies, their soul doesn't rest. It wanders, searching for its other half, desperate to return to the love it left behind. But the journey back is perilous. The soul must find a new vessel, must be born again, must grow and search and hope to find recognition in the eyes of their beloved. Most never make it. Most are lost in the void between lives, forgotten by time and fate. But some, a rare, precious few, find their way home. As I watched Ulrich kneel before me, his powerful frame shaking with sobs that seemed torn from the depths of his being, I felt something shift inside me. The block that had kept my wolf locked away for 17 years began to crack. Not break, not yet, but crack. And through those cracks, memories leaked like water through a dam. A girl running through meadows of wildflowers, her laughter bright as bells. A young man catching her, spinning her, kissing her breathless. The taste of summer on her tongue. The feeling of being completely, utterly loved. But they weren't my memories. Were they? I don't understand, I said, my voice barely audible. Your mate died 300 years ago. I'm 23. I can't be. You are. Ulrich looked up at me, and his face was transformed. The hardness was gone, replaced by raw vulnerability that made him look almost fragile. I'd know you anywhere, Gisela. Your eyes. Your scent beneath the fear. The way my wolf recognizes yours even when she's hidden. You came back to me. But I'm not her. I don't remember being her. Adelheid. You're both. He stood, his movements suddenly gentle as he reached for my chains. With a flex of his power, the locks snapped open. The iron fell away, leaving red marks on my wrists. He took my hands in his, cradling them as if they were made of glass. You're the soul of my mate reborn into a new body. The memories are locked away, but they're still there. The tears prove it. Luna tears hold the truth of their bearers' past lives. They're the rarest magic in our world. I pulled my hands back, overwhelmed. This is insane. People don't just reincarnate. That's a myth. A fairy tale. So are we. His smile was sad. Creatures who turn into wolves under the moon. Beings who live for centuries. Magic that flows through our blood. We're walking fairy tales, Adelheid. Why is rebirth so hard to believe? Because. I struggled to find words. Because if what you're saying is true, then you killed me. In my last life you murdered your own mate. Why would I come back to you? Why would fate be so cruel? The question hung between us, heavy with implications. Ulrich's expression darkened, centuries of guilt weighing down his features. Come with me, he said finally. There are things I need to show you, truths you need to hear. And we're running out of time. Running out of time for what? Dawn is coming. And with it, forces neither of us are prepared for. He held out his hand. Please, Adelheid. Trust me. I know I have no right to ask that. I know I'm the monster in your nightmares. But I'm also the only one who can help you understand what's happening. What's been happening since the day you were born? I looked at his outstretched hand. Every logical part of my brain screamed at me to refuse. He was the Alpha King. He'd condemned me to death. He claimed I was the reincarnation of the mate he'd killed. Nothing about this situation was safe or sane. But my wolf, newly awakened and growing stronger by the moment, wanted his touch, wanted to be near him. And somewhere deep in my bones, in a place beyond memory or reason, I felt the truth of his words. I knew him. I'd always known him. I took his hand. His fingers closed around mine, warm and strong, and a jolt of electricity shot through me. He felt it too. I saw his pupils dilate, heard his sharp intake of breath. The mate bond, dormant and denied for 3 centuries, was struggling to reform, to reconnect us across death and rebirth. Guards! Ulrich called without looking away from me. Return to your posts. Tell no one what you've seen or heard tonight. By order of your king. Yes, your majesty. They departed quickly, their footsteps fading into the darkness. Ulrich led me out of the cell, through the winding corridors of the dungeon. We passed other cells, other prisoners who watched us with wide eyes and whispered questions. None dared to speak aloud. The Alpha King's power was absolute here. We climbed stone stairs, ascending from the depths of the castle into the inhabited levels. Servants jumped out of our way, bowing deeply. Nobles gaped and whispered behind their hands. The sight of their king holding the hand of a dirty, ragged prisoner must have been shocking. But Ulrich paid them no attention. He walked with purpose, his grip on my hand never faltering, leading me deeper into the heart of Castle Rutley. Finally, we reached a door of carved black wood, guarded by two massive wolves in their animal forms. They were the size of horses, with eyes that glowed red in the torchlight. Royal guards, the elite protectors of the Alpha King, the most dangerous warriors in our nation. They should have torn me apart on sight. Instead, they lowered their heads submissively as we approached, whining low in their throats. They remember you too, Ulrich said softly. Your scent is changing, becoming what it once was. They know their Luna has returned. He pushed open the door, and we entered his private chambers. The room was vast, with high ceilings and walls covered in dark tapestries depicting wolf hunts and ancient battles. A massive fireplace dominated one wall, flames crackling and casting dancing shadows. Bookshelves lined another wall, filled with volumes that looked older than some kingdoms. In the center stood a bed large enough for a pack, covered in furs and silk. But it was the far wall that captured my attention. Because it wasn't a wall at all. It was glass, floor to ceiling, looking out over the mountain kingdom spread below. And hanging in front of that glass, suspended by silver chains, was a portrait. A woman with long dark hair and golden eyes stood in a forest clearing, wearing a white dress that seemed to glow with its own light. She was beautiful in a way that took your breath away, not because of perfect features, but because of the joy that radiated from her. The love in her eyes. The slight smile that suggested she was looking at someone she adored. She looked exactly like me. If I were happy, if I were whole, if I were loved. That's her, I whispered. That's Gisela. That's you. Ulrich stood beside me, staring up at the portrait with an expression of such longing it made my chest ache. I had it painted 3 months before. Before the end. You were 6 months pregnant with our daughter. You were so excited to be a mother. You spent hours talking to her, singing to her, making plans for her future. What was her name? We never got to give her one. His voice was hollow. She died with you. In my arms. Because of me. I turned to face him fully. Tell me what happened. All of it. No more half-truths or vague references. If I'm supposed to be your mate reborn, if you're asking me to believe any of this, I need to know the truth. Ulrich walked to a cabinet and poured 2 glasses of amber liquid from a crystal decanter. He handed one to me. Drink. You'll need it. Took a sip. Whiskey, smooth and burning at once. I drained the glass. He smiled faintly. Still can't hold your liquor, I see. Gisela always drank hers in one go too. The smile faded. 300 years ago, I wasn't a king. I was just the alpha of a small pack in these mountains. We lived simply. Hunting, farming, celebrating the old ways. And then I met you. Or Gisela. He moved to the window, staring out at the night. She wandered into our territory during a full moon hunt. She was alone, running from something, I never learned what. Her pack had exiled her, cast her out for reasons she wouldn't share. She was thin, frightened, barely surviving. My wolf recognized her instantly as our mate. The bond snapped into place the moment our eyes met. Love at first sight, I murmured. More than love. Destiny. Purpose. Completion. He touched the glass, his palm leaving a print of warmth. I took her in, protected her, courted her properly, even though the bond already tied us together. We had 3 years of perfect happiness. 3 years of believing we could build a life, raise a family, grow old together. And then she became pregnant, and everything changed. Why? What happened? There was a faction within my pack, wolves who believed in the old prophecies, ancient texts that spoke of a Luna who would bear a child of immense power. A child who would unite all werewolf packs under one banner, ending centuries of territorial wars. But the prophecy also warned that this child would bring about the downfall of the old order, that she would change everything we knew. Understanding dawned cold and terrible. They thought your child was the one from the prophecy. They knew she was. Because Gisela wasn't just any wolf. She came from an ancient bloodline, one of the original families touched by the moon goddess herself. Her blood carried magic that hadn't been seen in generations. When she became pregnant, that magic awakened. She began having visions, prophetic dreams, speaking in languages she'd never learned. Like my dreams, I said quietly. Yes. The visions showed her a future where our daughter united the packs, ended the bloodshed, created peace. But they also showed the cost. The old pack structures would crumble. The traditional power hierarchies would fall. Many of the current alphas would lose their authority. So they wanted her dead. Wanted the baby dead. Ulrich nodded, his reflection in the glass looking ghostly. They came to me in secret. 12 of my most trusted wolves, including my beta and my second. They showed me ancient texts, twisted prophecies, made it sound like Gisela and the baby were threats to everything we held sacred. They said the child would bring destruction, not peace. That the only way to save our people was to end the pregnancy. And you believed them? No. His voice cracked. I threw them out. Told them if anyone touched my mate or my child, I'd rip them apart personally. I thought that was the end of it. I thought my word as alpha was enough. He turned to face me, and there were tears on his face now. The first time I realized that he'd wept in front of me as himself, not lost in grief. They poisoned me. Slipped wolfsbane into my drink during a pack celebration. Not enough to kill, but enough to drive me temporarily insane. Wolfsbane in high doses causes paranoia, rage, hallucinations. They waited until it took effect, then whispered their lies to me while I was out of my mind. Told me Gisela had been unfaithful. That the child wasn't mine. That she was plotting to kill me and take over the pack. I closed my eyes, not wanting to hear the rest but knowing I needed to. I found her in our home, in our bed, sleeping peacefully with her hands on her swollen belly. And in my poisoned mind, she looked like a threat, like a traitor, like everything they'd told me she was. His voice dropped to a whisper. I shifted. Let my wolf take control. And You killed her, I finished. Killed them both. By the time the wolfsbane wore off, she was dead in my arms. Our daughter was dead. And I was covered in their blood. The pack found me there, still holding her body, howling loud enough to shake the mountains. The 12 who'd poisoned me tried to claim it was justified, that they'd saved the pack. I executed them all. Slowly. Then I executed every wolf who'd known about the plan and said nothing. By the time my rage burned out, half my pack was dead. He sat heavily in a chair by the fire, looking suddenly ancient. The survivors scattered. I was left alone in a territory soaked with blood and betrayal. For decades, I did nothing but wander, barely alive, wishing I could die. But alphas don't die easily. Especially not ones cursed with guilt. So I lived. I gathered strength. I conquered other packs, united them by force, built an empire from ashes and fury. Became the monster everyone feared. Because you couldn't forgive yourself, I said. Because I didn't deserve forgiveness. He looked up at me. For 300 years I've ruled with an iron fist, never taking another mate, never allowing myself happiness. I've been judge, jury, and executioner, especially for crimes of treason and betrayal. Perhaps trying to punish the world for what I did. Perhaps trying to punish myself. And then I showed up, accused of treason. marked for execution at dawn. History repeating itself. He stood and crossed to me, stopping just inches away. When they told me about you, something made me come down to the dungeons personally. I never do that. Never look at the condemned. But something pulled me to you. And the moment I saw you, the moment I caught your scent, my wolf went wild. He recognized you. Even if I didn't consciously understand, he knew. Your wolf never forgot his mate. Never. He's been trying to push through, to force me to see the truth, but I've kept him suppressed for so long. Built such high walls around the bond. It wasn't until your tears. Those Luna tears that hold the memories of past lives. It wasn't until then that the walls finally crumbled. I studied his face, the lines of guilt and grief, the eyes that had seen too much suffering, the hands that had killed the thing they loved most. What do you want from me, Ulrich? I want. He raised his hand, hovering it near my face like before, but this time he completed the gesture. His palm cupped my cheek, warm and gentle. I want forgiveness I don't deserve. I want a second chance I haven't earned. I want my mate back and the life we should have had. But more than anything, I want you to be safe. Because if you're here, if you've been reborn, then the prophecy is still in play. And the wolves who fear change will come for you again. The ones who planted the evidence. Who accused me of treason. Yes, they must be descendants of the original conspirators, or wolves who share their beliefs. They know who you are, or at least they suspect. The Luna reborn. The threat to their power. How would they know? I didn't know until an hour ago. Luna magic has a signature. Those sensitive to it can feel it, especially as you get older and the power grows. That's probably why you were blocked. Someone suppressed your wolf when you were young to hide what you were. But the block is breaking now. The magic is emerging. They can sense it. My mind raced. My parents. You asked about my parents. They were executed for treason 23 years ago, right around the time I would have been born. Ulrich's eyes widened. What were their full names? Think Adelheid. It's important. Heidi and Bruno Brunner. They lived in the Eastern Territories near the... I froze. Near the old pack lands. Your original pack before you became king. Gods! He pulled away, pacing now. They must have been members of my old pack. Survivors who knew the truth about Gisela. They probably recognized your soul when you were born. Knew you were the Luna reincarnated. They were protecting you. By blocking my wolf. By keeping me weak and broken. By keeping you hidden. If your wolf had emerged normally, if your powers had manifested, you would have been found and killed as a child. They sacrificed your wholeness to save your life. He spun to face me. And then someone discovered the truth anyway and executed them for it. Made it look like treason to cover up the real reason. Which means I've been hunted my whole life without even knowing it. Yes. And now that you're here, now that you're awakening, they'll make their move. The execution order. That was them trying to finish what they started. They have influence in my court, high enough to plant evidence and push through a death sentence. His expression turned fierce, protective. But I won't let them have you. Not again. Not ever again. The possessiveness in his voice made my wolf purr. But my human mind was still cautious, still uncertain. You say that now. But you killed me before. What's to stop you from doing it again? The question was cruel, and I knew it. But it needed to be asked. Ulrich flinched as if I'd struck him. Nothing, he said finally. There's no guarantee. No promise I can make that would undo what I did. All I can say is that I've had 300 years to learn from that mistake. 300 years to understand how poisoned minds and manipulated hearts can destroy everything precious. I know the signs now. I know the tactics. And I'd rather die myself than hurt you again. Pretty words. True words. He knelt before me, the Alpha King of all werewolves, on his knees for the second time in one night. I can't make you trust me, Adelheid. I can't make you remember being Gisela or feel the bond we once had. But I can protect you. I can help you unlock your wolf and your memories. I can give you the choice that Gisela never had. The choice to walk away, to be free, to live without me if that's what you want. And if I choose to stay. His eyes blazed with hope and fear mingled together. Then I'll spend every day proving I'm worthy of that choice. I'll tear apart anyone who threatens you. I'll face the past and the conspirators and my own demons if it means keeping you safe. And maybe if I'm very lucky, you'll remember what we had. You'll feel what we felt. And you'll give us the second chance that fate seems determined to grant. I should have said no. Should have demanded my freedom and run as far from this complicated, dangerous situation as possible. But as I stood there, looking down at this powerful man humbled before me, I felt those cracks in my wolf's prison widen further. And through them, emotions leaked. Love and trust and bone-deep certainty that this was where I belonged. Not memories yet, but the shadows of memories. The ghosts of feelings I'd carried for 300 years between lives. If I stay, I said slowly, we do this my way. No commands. No king and subject. We're equals working together to stop the conspirators and unlock my past. Agreed. And if I remember everything and decide you're not worth forgiving, you'll let me go. No matter how much it hurts. His jaw clenched but he nodded. Agreed. Then I'll stay. For now. Until we figure this out. The relief on his face was beautiful and heartbreaking at once. He stood, and for a moment I thought he might embrace me. But he held back, respecting the boundaries I'd set. Thank you, he said simply. A knock at the door interrupted us. Your Majesty. A woman's voice, cultured and cold. The council requests your presence. Urgent matters regarding the execution scheduled for dawn. Ulrich's expression darkened. That's Frieda Zimmermann, head of the council. She's one of the most powerful nobles in the kingdom, and one of the loudest voices calling for your death. Do you think she's part of the conspiracy? I'd bet my crown on it. He raised his voice. Tell the council I'll attend shortly. They insist on immediacy, Your Majesty. The prisoner's fate hangs in the balance. The prisoner's fate is no longer their concern. I'm invoking ancient right of Luna's claim. Adelheid Brunner is under my direct protection. The execution is cancelled. Silence from the other side of the door. Then, Your Majesty, you cannot be serious. Luna's claim hasn't been invoked in over 200 years. The council will never. The council will accept my decision or find themselves stripped of their titles. Ulrich's voice carried the weight of absolute authority. I am still the Alpha King. My word is law. Of course, Your Majesty. Frieda's tone dripped with barely concealed fury. I'll inform the council of your decision. Though I'm certain they'll have questions about why a traitor suddenly warrants such extraordinary protection. Let them question. I'll have answers ready. He waited until her footsteps retreated before turning back to me. That bought us some time, but not much. Luna's claim is an ancient law that allows the Alpha King to take any wolf under his personal protection, granting them immunity from all charges. But it requires justification within 3 days, or the original sentence is reinstated. 3 days to prove I'm not a traitor and expose a conspiracy that's been operating for centuries. Simple. His lips quirked in what might have been a smile. You always did have a sharp tongue. That hasn't changed. Before I could respond, a searing pain shot through my head. I gasped and staggered, and Ulrich caught me, holding me steady as the world tilted and spun. Images flashed behind my eyes. Not dreams this time, but memories. Real, visceral, undeniable memories. Running through a forest, laughing, a man's voice calling behind me. Gisela! You can't outrun me. Watch me try. My voice, but not my voice. Younger. Happier. Free. He caught me around the waist, spinning me until we collapsed together in a pile of autumn leaves. His face above me, younger but unmistakably Ulrich. His eyes warm instead of cold. I'll always catch you, little wolf. No matter how far you run. Promise. Promise. The memory shifted. Cottage interior. My hands, Gisella's hands, resting on a swollen belly. Ulrich kneeling before me. His ear pressed to my stomach. She kicked. Did you feel that? Of course I felt it. She's practicing her wolf already. Such joy in that voice. Such love. She's going to be strong, Ulrich. Like her father. Beautiful like her mother. He kissed my belly, then looked up with eyes full of wonder. I never thought I could be this happy. Never thought I deserved something so perfect. You deserve everything. Gisella's my hand touching his face. We're going to have forever together. You, me, and our little one. Forever, he agreed. The memory fractured. Darkness, fear. Wolfsbane burning through veins. Ulrich's face above me but wrong, twisted with rage, eyes wild and unseeing. Traitor. Liar. You'll destroy everything. Ulrich, no. It's me. It's Gisela. Please, you have to. Silver claws. Blood. The feeling of life draining away while the man I loved stood over me, monster and victim both. And with my last breath, not anger, not hatred, but understanding and forgiveness and a desperate, futile wish. Find me again. Please. Don't let this be the end. Find me. I came back to myself screaming, tears pouring down my face, those luminescent Luna tears that held truth and memory. Ulrich held me while I shook, his own face wet with tears, his body trembling as violently as mine. I remember, I sobbed. I remember loving you. I remember our daughter. I remember dying and forgiving you and begging fate to bring me back. It's real. All of it. Gods, it's all real. Gisela. He breathed my old name like a prayer. My Gisela. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We held each other, two souls reunited across an impossible gulf of time and death, crying for everything we'd lost and everything we might still reclaim. The mate bond, dormant for so long, roared back to life. I could feel him now. His emotions, his thoughts, his wolf calling to mine. The connection was overwhelming, beautiful, terrifying. And somewhere in the depths of my awakening power, I felt something else. Presence. A consciousness that had been waiting for 300 years to be acknowledged. Or daughter. The child who died before birth, whose soul had been caught in the space between lives, tethered to her parents by love and prophecy. She'd never moved on. Never been reborn. She'd been waiting, watching, hoping for this moment when her mother and father might be reunited and finally give her the chance to exist. Ulrich. I pulled back, looking into his eyes. She's still here. Or daughter. Can feel her. She's been waiting for us. His eyes widened. That's not possible. When a wolf dies before birth. Normal wolves, yes. But she was never normal. The prophecy said she'd unite the packs, change everything. That kind of power doesn't just disappear. Wait. And she's been waiting for 300 years for her parents to find each other again. How do we bring her back? I don't know yet. The memories are still fragmented. But I think that's what the conspirators fear most. Not just me returning, but her. If she's finally born, if she grows up with both her parents this time, protected and powerful, she'll fulfill the prophecy. She'll change everything they're trying to preserve. Ulrich's expression turned fierce. Then we make sure she gets that chance. We expose the conspirators. We break whatever's left of the block on your wolf. We complete the Luna awakening. And we bring our daughter into this world the way we should have 300 years ago. You make it sound simple. It won't be. It'll be dangerous and complicated and probably end in bloodshed. He cupped my face in both hands. But I've waited 3 centuries for this. For you. For the family we were meant to have. I'm not letting anyone take that away from us again. I leaned into his touch, letting myself feel the warmth and safety I'd been craving my whole life without knowing why. We need a plan. The council will come for me again, and next time they won't be stopped by ancient laws. They'll find a way. Then we move first. Tomorrow, I'll call a full assembly of all the noble houses. force them to show their hands. That's insane. You'll be putting yourself in a room full of potential enemies. I'll be putting myself in a room where I can watch them all at once. See who reacts to your presence. Identify the conspirators. He smiled grimly. And you'll be there with me. As my mate. As the Luna they thought they'd killed. I'm not ready for that. The memories are still returning. My wolf is still locked. I can't. You don't have to be ready. You just have to be present. Let them see you. Let them fear you. His eyes blazed with something primal. They've operated in shadow for 300 years. Time to drag them into the light. A sharp knock interrupted us again. But this time, the door burst open without waiting for permission. A man strode in, tall, dark-haired, with eyes like amber and a scar running down his left cheek. He wore the insignia of the Royal Guard, but his bearing suggested he was far more than just a soldier. "Brother," he said, his voice urgent. "We have a problem." Ulrich's hand moved protectively to my waist. "Adelheid, this is Conrad Waldman, my younger brother and the commander of my guard." "Conrad, this is the prisoner who's supposed to die at dawn." "Yes, I'm aware." Conrad's eyes raked over me, assessing, calculating. "The whole castle is buzzing about how you invoked Luna's claim. The council is in an uproar. And Frieda Zimmermann is calling for an emergency vote to strip you of your authority. She can call for whatever she wants. She doesn't have the votes. She does if she can prove you're compromised. That you're making irrational decisions based on." He gestured vaguely at me. "Whatever this is." "This," Ulrich said coldly, "is my mate, the Luna reborn. And you will show her the respect she deserves." Conrad's eyebrows shot up. "Your mate. The one you killed 300 years ago. That's your story." "It's not a story. It's the truth. Do you have any idea how that sounds? You've ruled for centuries on the strength of your judgment and control. Now you're suddenly claiming that a prisoner, a convicted traitor, is your long-dead mate reincarnated. They'll say you've gone mad. They'll use it as grounds for removal. Let them try." Ulrich's voice was quiet, but the threat in it was unmistakable. Conrad ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. "I'm trying to help you. If you're removed, she dies anyway. The protection you've granted her only holds if you remain king. So unless you have actual proof." "The Luna tears," I said quietly. Both men turned to look at me. "They're proof. Luna tears show the truth of past lives. Any wolf with the sight can verify them." "And how many tears have you shed?" Conrad asked skeptically. "Enough. And I'll shed more if necessary. In front of the council. In front of witnesses." I stepped forward, meeting his gaze directly. "I know you don't trust me. I know this all seems convenient and impossible. But I'm not asking you to believe on faith. I'm asking you to let us prove it." Conrad studied me for a long moment. Then he looked at his brother. "She sounds like you. Same stubborn pride. Same refusal to back down." Slight smile. "I can see why you loved her." "I still love her," Ulrich corrected. "I never stopped." "Then we do this carefully. Strategically." Conrad began to pace, his military mind clearly working through scenarios. "Tomorrow's assembly is too soon. We need time to gather allies, verify the Lunateers with a neutral seer, build a case that can't be dismissed as delusion." "We don't have time," I said. "Every hour we wait, the conspirators have time to plan. To strike. They've already tried to kill me once. They won't stop. Then we set a trap." Conrad's smile turned sharp. "We let them think they're winning. Let them make their move. And we catch them in the act. Using Adelheid as bait." Ulrich growled. "Absolutely not. I'm not suggesting we leave her unprotected. But if we're smart about this, we can draw them out and end this in one move." He turned to me. "How much do you remember? About the original conspiracy?" I closed my eyes, reaching for memories that were still reforming. 12 wolves. Led by Beta. Beta Wilhelm. I remember his face. His voice. He was the one who brought the others around, convinced them the prophecy was a threat instead of a promise. Wilhelm Zimmermann, Conrad breathed. Frieda's ancestor. That's why she's so determined, Ulrich said. It's not just about power. It's about family legacy. She's continuing what her forefather started. Then we need to know who else is involved. Who else in the council carries the blood of the original conspirators? Conrad pulled out a small device, a modern tablet, incongruous in this ancient castle. He pulled up files, genealogies, maps of family connections. I've been tracking unusual activity in the council for months. Closed-door meetings, secret communications, money moving through strange channels. I suspected something was brewing, but I didn't know what. You've been investigating them? Ulrich sounded surprised. I'm your guard commander. It's my job to watch for threats, even within your own court. Conrad spread the files across a table. Look here. 7 council members with direct lineage to wolves from your original pack. Another 4 with connections through marriage or alliance. That's 11 out of 23 seats. Not enough for a majority, I said. But enough to cause serious problems. Unless they have sympathizers. Wolves who aren't related to the original conspirators but share their beliefs. That the old ways should be preserved. That change is dangerous. That prophecies of unity threaten their individual power. Ulrich leaned over the table, studying the connections. If we expose them publicly, the others will scatter. Go underground. We'll spend decades rooting them out. But if we let them act, I said slowly, if we give them a chance to come together for one final strike, we can end it all at once. Using you as the target, Ulrich said flatly. No. It's not your choice. I met his eyes. I'm not Gisela anymore. Not fully. I'm Adelheid, a woman who spent her whole life being underestimated and overlooked. I know how to play weak. How to seem vulnerable. They'll never see me coming. She's right, Conrad said. And she won't be alone. We can position guards. They'll sense guards, I interrupted. They'll smell them, hear them. No, it has to be more subtle than that. We need to make them think they've won. That they've separated me from Ulrich. That I'm defenseless. A plan was forming in my mind. Pieces clicking together with a clarity that felt like it came from beyond myself. From Gisela's memories. From 300 years of waiting and watching and understanding how conspirators thought. The Luna ceremony, I said. When does it happen? Ulrich frowned. Usually during the full moon following a Luna's claiming. But we haven't had one in 300 years. I know. Smiled. So let's have one now. Announce it. Make it a grand spectacle. Invite all the noble houses, all the council members, everyone who matters. Make them watch as you formally recognize me as your Luna. That's insane, Conrad said. You'll be completely exposed during the ceremony. Ancient tradition requires the Luna to stand alone in the center of the circle, while the Alpha King calls the pack bonds. If they attack then everyone will see who they are. There will be hundreds of witnesses. Nobles from every territory. They won't be able to hide or deny their involvement. I turned to Ulrich. And during the ceremony when the pack bonds are called, my wolf will have to fully emerge. The block will break. The Luna power will manifest. Even if they attack, I won't be defenseless. You're betting your life on a wolf you've never fully shifted into, Ulrich said quietly. On powers you don't know how to control. I'm betting on the bond between us. On 300 years of love that survived death itself. I took his hand. Trust me. Trust us. This is how we end it. He stared at me for a long moment, emotions warring across his face. Finally he squeezed my hand. When? Tomorrow night. The moon won't be full, but it doesn't have to be. This isn't about tradition. It's about making them act before they're ready. Conrad shook his head slowly. You're both crazy. But if you're determined to do this, we need to prepare. I'll need to position my most trusted wolves around the ceremony grounds. Not to intervene directly, but to prevent escape once the conspirators reveal themselves. Do it quietly, Ulrich said. And Conrad, thank you for believing, or at least for being willing to. His brother smiled slightly. You're my king and my brother. If you say she's your mate, then she's my Luna. Simple as that. He headed for the door, then paused. For what it's worth, I hope you're right about the second chances. About love surviving death. It would be nice to believe in something that pure. After he left, silence fell between Ulrich and me. The weight of what we'd planned, the risk we were taking, settled over us like a heavy cloak. You should rest, Ulrich said finally. Tomorrow will be difficult. I'm not tired. I'm terrified and exhilarated and overwhelmed, but not tired. I looked around the vast chamber. Where will I sleep? He gestured to a door on the far side of the room. There are guest chambers through there. Comfortable, private, safe. Or I could stay here. The words were out before I could stop them. I don't mean. I just mean that being near you helps. The memories come easier. The wolf feels calmer. And if the conspirators try something tonight, they won't get past my guards. Or me. But I could see the longing in his eyes. The desire to keep me close. But if you want to stay, I won't argue. The bed is large enough for both of us with plenty of space between. We prepared for sleep in awkward silence, both hyper-aware of the other. He gave me clothes, a soft shirt that smelled like him and swallowed me whole. I washed in the basin, scrubbing away 3 days of dungeon grime. When I emerged, he was already in bed, carefully positioned on one side, leaving the other vast expanse empty. I climbed in, and the mattress felt like clouds after days on stone. The furs were warm, pillows soft, and Ulrich's presence, even feet away, felt like coming home. Can I ask you something? I said into the darkness. Anything. In all these years, did you ever? Was there ever anyone else? Even for a moment? No, never. His voice was certain. The mate bond doesn't break with death. Just goes silent. For 300 years I felt like half a person missing something vital. I tried to tell myself it was guilt, grief. But it was you. Always you. The ghost of what we had. I think I felt it too. That hollowness. That sense of something missing. Even before the memories started coming back, I always felt like I was searching for something I couldn't name. You were searching for me. And somehow, impossibly, you found me. I turned on my side to face him. In the dim light from the dying fire, I could just make out his profile. What if it doesn't work? What if the ceremony fails and they kill me again? Then I'll follow you this time. Into death and whatever comes after. I won't live another 300 years without you. Don't say that. Don't. It's the truth. You're not alone in this, Adelheid. Gisela. Whatever name you choose. We face it together, or not at all. The mate bond pulsed between us, warm and golden. I could feel his determination, his love, his absolute certainty that we were meant to be. Gisela Adelheid, I said softly. I think I want to be both. The woman I was and the woman I've become. Gisela Adelheid, he repeated, testing it. Perfect. I closed my eyes, letting exhaustion finally claim me. As I drifted off, I felt Ulrich's hand find mine beneath the covers, not pulling me closer but just holding on, anchoring us to each other. And in my dreams, I ran through forests with a wolf beside me, our daughter's laughter echoing through the trees, her spirit waiting to be born into a world we'd make safe for her at last. Dawn broke over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of blood and gold. I woke to find myself curled against Ulrich's chest, his arm wrapped protectively around me. Sometime in the night we'd gravitated together, the mate bond pulling us close even in sleep. He was already awake, watching me with those pale blue eyes that had seen centuries pass. Good morning, he murmured. Is it? I stretched, feeling muscles protest from days of imprisonment. Considering what we're about to do. We're still alive. We're together. That's more than I've had in 300 years. So yes, it's a very good morning. A knock at the door interrupted the moment. Conrad's voice. Brother, the council is gathering. They're demanding an explanation for last night's irregularities. Ulrich sighed and sat up, the muscles of his back flexing beneath his shirt. Even after everything, I couldn't help but notice how beautiful he was, like a sculpture of masculine power and grace. Tell them I'll address them within the hour. And Conrad. Send for the castle seers. All of them. You're really doing this. We're really doing this. After Conrad left, Ulrich turned to me. The seers can verify your Luna tears. Read the memories within them. It's the proof Conrad said we needed. But Gisela, if they look into your tears, they'll see everything, including the moment I killed you. Are you prepared for that to be public knowledge? Thought about it. The shame and horror of having my death displayed for others to witness. But also the freedom of truth. Of no more secrets or shadows. Yes, I said firmly. Let them see. Let them know exactly what was stolen from us and why we're fighting to prevent it from happening again. Within the hour, I was dressed in clothes befitting a Luna, a flowing dress of deep blue that matched Ulrich's eyes, embroidered with silver thread that caught the light. Someone had brought jewelry, ancient pieces that Ulrich said had belonged to Gisela. When I put on the necklace, a silver wolf with moonstone eyes. Another flash of memory, Ulrich clasping it around my neck on our mating ceremony, promising forever. The memories were coming faster now, flooding back in a torrent. I was becoming her again. Becoming myself. The council chamber was massive, with vaulted ceilings and walls covered in the banners of every wolf pack in the nation. 23 seats arranged in a semicircle, all currently filled with wolves who looked at me with expressions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility. Frieda Zimmermann sat in the center seat, a woman of perhaps 60 in appearance, though wolves aged slowly and she could have been twice that. She had sharp features, silver hair pulled back severely, and eyes like chips of ice. Everything about her radiated controlled fury. Your Majesty, she said, her voice dripping with false respect. How kind of you to finally grace us with your presence. And you've brought the prisoner. I've brought the Luna, Ulrich corrected, his voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. Gisela Adelheid, my mate reborn. And she stands before you not as a prisoner, but as your future queen. The chamber erupted in noise. Gasps, shouts, protests. Frieda raised her hand for silence. Your Majesty, with all due respect, you're asking us to believe an impossible tale. Reincarnation is a myth. This woman is a convicted traitor who was framed, Ulrich interrupted. By wolves in this very chamber who knew what she was and wanted her dead before she could awaken. That's a serious accusation. Then let's prove it. Or disprove it. I've called the seers to verify her Luna tears. They'll show the truth, all of it. The past, the present, the conspiracy. His eyes swept the council. Unless some of you would prefer we not look too closely at the truth. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. I watched them carefully, noting who seemed nervous and who seemed genuinely confused. Building a mental map of potential conspirators. The seers entered. 3 ancient wolves, 2 women and a man, their eyes milky with age and power. The sight was rare, passed down through specific bloodlines, allowing wolves to see beyond the present into past and future. They were respected and feared in equal measure. The eldest, a woman named Hedwig, approached me slowly. Child, she said, her voice like rustling leaves. Show us your tears. I didn't know how to summon them on command. But then I thought of Ulrich's face twisted in wolfsbane-induced madness. Thought of our daughter who never got to breathe. Thought of 300 years of separation and pain. Tears came easily. They glowed as they fell, luminescent and beautiful, and Hedwig caught one in a small crystal vial. She held it up to the light, and her milky eyes focused on it with unnatural intensity. The other two seers joined her, all three staring into that single tear as if it held the secrets of the universe. Long moments passed in silence. Then Hedwig gasped, stumbling backward. The male seer steadied her, his own face pale with shock. "It's true," Hedwig whispered. "She is the Luna. I see her, 300 years ago, heavy with child, dying at the hands of." Her eyes found Ulrich. "Your hands, my king. But not your fault. Treason. Betrayal. A conspiracy of 12. The second seer spoke, her voice shaking. "I see more. The soul returning. Searching. Finding a vessel in the womb of Heidi Brunner. Herself a survivor of the original pack. I see Heidi and Bruno protecting the child, blocking her wolf to hide her power. And I see them dying for it, executed on false charges by..." She turned to look directly at Frida. "By your order, Counselor Zimmermann. 23 years ago, you signed their death warrant." The chamber exploded. Wolves were on their feet, shouting accusations and denials. Frida's face had gone white, then red with rage. "This is outrageous," she shrieked. "The seers have been compromised. The king has manipulated them somehow." "We cannot be manipulated," Hedwig said coldly. "The sight shows truth, nothing more. And the truth is that you, Frida Zimmermann, are heir to your ancestor Wilhelm's hatred. You've continued his work, hunting the Luna across lifetimes, determined to prevent the prophecy from being fulfilled." "What prophecy?" one of the other council members demanded, a younger wolf I didn't recognize. "What are you all talking about?" "The prophecy of the United Pack," the male seer said. "Written 500 years ago, foretelling a Luna of old blood who would bear a child of immense power. A child who would unite all wolves under one banner, ending territorial wars and pack divisions. But also ending the old power structures. The traditional hierarchies would crumble. Alphas would no longer rule by birthright but by merit. The strong would still lead, but the weak would no longer be cast aside." "That's chaos," another council member said, an older wolf with Frida's sharp features. "Definitely related. That's the destruction of everything our society is built on." "That's evolution," Ulrich countered. "That's growth. That's the future some of you fear because it threatens your inherited power." "And how many are involved?" Conrad stepped forward from where he'd been standing guard at the door. "How many of the council are part of this conspiracy?" Hedwig's eyes swept the chamber, seeing beyond what the rest of us could. 11 carry the blood and the hatred of the original 12. Another 5 are sympathizers, bought with promises of preserved power. 16 in total out of 23 seats. The 7 innocent council members moved together, distancing themselves from the conspirators. The 16 Hedwig had identified looked at each other, calculating their next move. "Even if all this is true," Frida said, recovering her composure with impressive speed, "you cannot prove intent. Cannot prove we've actually done anything beyond, let's say, harboring philosophical concerns about an ancient prophecy." "You ordered the execution of Heidi and Bruno Brunner," Ulrich said coldly, "on legitimate charges of treason. They were caught passing secrets to the Shadow Fong pack." "Lies," I said, my voice ringing out clear and strong. "And we can prove it. Because the memories in my tears don't just show the past. They show the recent past too. Every conversation I've had. Every moment since I was captured. Including the voices I heard the night before I was arrested. That was a bluff, I hadn't heard anything. But the way 2 of the council members flinched told me I'd struck true. You were outside my camp," I continued, reading their reactions and improvising. Planting the evidence. Discussing how the Brunner spawn had finally grown powerful enough to detect. How you needed to act quickly before the Alpha King sensed his mate's return. "Prove it," Frida snapped. "The seers can extract that memory. Want to give them another tier to examine? Let them see your faces in the moonlight as you condemned an innocent woman to death." Frida's expression twisted into something ugly. You think you're so clever. You think you've won. But you're the same naive little Luna who got herself killed 300 years ago. Believing in prophecies and happy endings. Believing love conquers all. At least I believe in something beyond power and fear. Believe what you want. You'll die believing just like before. She turned to the other conspirators. We've been patient for centuries. Waited for the right moment. Built our strength. We won't be denied now. You're outnumbered, Conrad said. My guards have surrounded this chamber. You can't fight your way out. Who said anything about fighting? Frida smiled, cold and cruel. We have something better. Something we've been saving for this exact situation. She pulled a small vial from her robes, glass filled with dark liquid. Wolfsbane. But not just wolfsbane. I could smell it even from across the room, and the scent made my wolf howl in terror. This was concentrated, mixed with other poisons. Enough to drive an entire room of wolves into murderous insanity. If we can't kill the Luna directly, Frida said, we'll make the Alpha King do it again. History repeating itself, Your Majesty. Just like before. You'll slaughter her yourself, and this time, there won't be any coming back. She threw the vial to the ground. It shattered, and dark mist exploded outward, filling the chamber in seconds. Wolves began screaming, clawing at their throats, their eyes. The poison was airborne, spreading fast, seeping into lungs and bloodstreams. Ulrich grabbed me, trying to shield me with his body, but I could already see the effect taking hold. His eyes were going wild, his wolf pushing forward, his rational mind struggling against sudden, overwhelming paranoia and rage. Gisela! He gasped, using my old name, fighting to hold on to himself. Run, please. Before I'm not running. I grabbed his face, forcing him to look at me. You're stronger than this. We're stronger than this. The bond between us, it can protect us. Like it did before, in the moments before the poison fully took hold. Remember, we had minutes where you were still yourself. Where we were still us. Can't fight it. Too strong. Around us chaos. The innocent council members were trying to escape, but the conspirators were herding them back, forcing them to breathe the poison. Conrad was shifting, his wolf emerging, but his eyes were already showing the effects. The guards were bursting through the doors, only to be met with poisoned air. This was how they'd win. Not through direct confrontation, but by turning everyone into monsters. By making the innocent kill each other. I closed my eyes and reached deep, deeper than I'd ever gone before. Reached past the block that had constrained my wolf for 17 years. Reached past the memories and the pain and the fear. Reached for the Luna power that was my birthright. It was there, waiting. Growing stronger every moment I stood beside my mate. Fed by the bond. Fed by 300 years of determination and love. I grabbed onto that power and pulled. The block shattered like glass. My wolf surged forward, and this time nothing stopped her. The transformation was instant. Bones rearranging, muscles shifting, skin becoming fur. But it wasn't just a physical change. It was magical, spiritual. The awakening of something ancient and powerful. Became my true self. A wolf the color of moonlight stood where Adelheid had been. Larger than a normal she-wolf, with eyes that glowed gold like captured sunlight. And from my fur, from my very being, light radiated outward in waves. Luna light. The purifying power that only a true Luna possessed. The ability to cleanse poison, physical, mental, and spiritual. The light spread through the chamber, washing over every wolf it touched. Where it met the poison mist, the darkness burned away. Where it touched poisoned wolves, their eyes cleared. Their minds returned. Ulrich gasped and fell to his knees, the wolfsbane's hold breaking. Around the room, wolves were shaking off the effects, looking around in confusion and dawning horror at what had almost happened. Only the 16 conspirators remained unaffected, because they'd prepared for this. I could see it now, the way they wore talismans around their necks, dark magic designed to protect them from Luna light. They'd planned for every contingency. Clever, Frida snarled. But raw power isn't enough, little Luna. You're newly awakened, untrained. We've been preparing for 300 years. The conspirators shifted as one. 16 wolves of varying sizes and colors, all moving with coordinated precision. They'd trained for this. Rehearsed it. They were a pack within the pack, bound together by hatred and fear of change. They attacked. What happened next passed in a blur of movement and violence. Ulrich shifted, his massive silver wolf intercepting 3 attackers at once. Conrad, freed from the poison's effects, rallied the guards. The loyal council members joined the fight, outnumbered but determined. And I, newly transformed, newly powerful, stood at the center of it all and felt knowledge flood through me. Instincts that Gisela had possessed. Fighting techniques that were part of my Luna heritage. I wasn't just a wolf, I was a warrior. Leader. Force of nature. I fought. My jaws closed around the throat of a brown wolf who lunged for me. I tasted blood and felt no remorse. This was survival, this was justice. I released him and spun, my claws raking across the face of another attacker. Beside me, Ulrich fought with the fury of a king who'd had everything stolen from him twice. His silver wolf was magnificent, massive and powerful, moving with lethal grace. Together we were unstoppable. The mate bond connected us, letting us anticipate each other's movements, coordinate our attacks, protect each other's flanks. This was what we were meant to be. Not just mates but partners in battle. Alpha and Luna, balanced and united. But the conspirators had numbers and desperation on their side. And Frida, shifting into a wolf the color of old blood, was targeting me specifically. She wanted to finish what her ancestor had started. Wanted to end the Luna line forever. She came at me low and fast, going for my legs, trying to cripple me. I jumped, using her momentum against her, landing on her back and driving her to the marble floor. My teeth sought her throat, but she twisted away, surprisingly agile for her age. You think you've won, she snarled, speaking even in wolf form, a rare talent that indicated powerful magic. You think this ends here. We're not the only ones who fear the prophecy. There are others. Packs across the nation who share our beliefs. They'll never accept you or your abomination, child. Then they'll learn to, I growled back, finding that I too could speak in this form. The Luna power gave me abilities I was only beginning to understand. Or they'll fall like you're about to. I lunged, and this time my teeth found their mark. Not killing, I wouldn't give her that easy escape. But enough to end the fight. Enough to show dominance. She collapsed, whimpering, defeated. Around the chamber, the battle was ending. The conspirators, seeing their leader fallen, began to surrender. Those who didn't were subdued by Ulrich's guards, wolves who'd been freed from the poison and now fought with renewed purpose. Within minutes, it was over. All 16 conspirators were restrained, some injured, all defeated. The chamber was a mess of broken furniture and spilled blood, but we'd won. I shifted back to human form, suddenly aware that I was naked. Transformations destroyed clothing. Someone threw a cloak over my shoulders, and I wrapped it around myself gratefully. Ulrich shifted too, his body emerging from wolf form without a scratch despite the ferocity of the battle. He pulled on a pair of pants someone handed him and immediately came to me. Are you hurt? His hands ran over me, checking for injuries. I'm fine. You? Perfect. Now that you're safe. He pulled me against his chest, and I felt his heart hammering against my ear. When you shifted, when I saw your wolf for the first time. Gods, Gisela. You were magnificent. You are magnificent. We were magnificent, I corrected. Together. Conrad approached, blood on his face from a wound that was already healing. Well, that was dramatic. Though I suppose we should thank the conspirators for forcing the issue. Nothing like attempted mass murder to expose traitors. What do we do with them? One of the loyal council members asked, a woman named Vrainy who'd fought bravely despite being elderly. By law, treason carries a death sentence. Then the law will be carried out, Ulrich said coldly. But first, we extract every name of every sympathizer, every pack that supported them, every wolf who knew about this conspiracy and said nothing. We root out the rot completely. Frida laughed from where she lay bleeding on the floor. You think killing us ends this? You think you can force change on wolves who don't want it? The prophecy speaks of unity, but unity through what? Force. Fear. That makes you no better than us. I stepped forward, looking down at the woman who'd murdered my parents, who'd tried to murder me, who'd dedicated her life to preventing progress and change. You're right, I said quietly. Unity can't be forced. Has to be chosen. But here's what you don't understand. Wolves are already choosing. They're tired of the old ways. Tired of rigid hierarchies that value birth over merit. Tired of being cast out when they don't fit the traditional mold. The world is changing whether you like it or not. We're just here to guide that change instead of fighting it. Pretty speech, Frida spat. But words don't change reality. Wolves are beasts. We need alpha authority, need clear hierarchies. Without them, there's only chaos. There's only chaos when leaders rule through fear instead of respect. Ulrich's voice was firm. I've spent 300 years being the monster you think wolves need. Being cold and merciless and alone. It didn't bring peace. It didn't bring prosperity. Just brought more fear and more isolation. Maybe it's time to try something different. He turned to address the entire chamber. Guards, council members, even the defeated conspirators. The Luna ceremony will proceed tonight as planned. But it won't just be a ceremony recognizing my mate. It will be a ceremony transforming how we govern. The council will be reformed. Seats will be earned through service and merit, not inherited through bloodlines. Every pack, regardless of size or power, will have representation. And most importantly, we'll begin the work of uniting the packs not through conquest, but through cooperation. The prophecy, Hedwig the seer said softly. It's beginning. The change is coming. And the child? I asked, my hand unconsciously moving to my stomach. The daughter who's been waiting 300 years to be born. When does she get her chance? The seers looked at each other, then at me. Hedwig smiled, the first time I'd seen warmth on her ancient face. She gets her chance when you're ready, Luna. When you and your mate complete the bond fully. When the ceremony tonight makes you whole again. Then and only then can her soul finally incarnate. A thrill ran through me. Anticipation and joy and terror all mixed together. Tonight. It was all happening tonight. The hours between the council battle and the Luna ceremony passed in a blur of preparation. Healers tended to the wounded. Guards secured the conspirators in the deepest dungeons, the same cells where I'd been held just yesterday. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Messengers were sent to every pack in the nation, announcing the ceremony and the charges against the conspirators. The response was swift and varied. Some packs celebrated, others protested. Many simply waited to see what would happen. Change was terrifying even when it was necessary. I spent the afternoon with the seers, learning about my Luna powers and what to expect during the ceremony. Hedwig explained that the ritual was ancient, predating even the oldest packs. It would formally bind me to Ulrich through magic and pack bonds, making me not just his mate but the Luna of all wolves in his kingdom. The power exchange would be immense. And if I wasn't prepared, it could destroy us both. You must be open, Hedwig instructed as she drew symbols on my arms in silver paint. No barriers between you and your mate. No walls around your heart. The bond requires complete vulnerability. That's terrifying. Love always is. She smiled gently. But you've already died for love once. Opening your heart is easy compared to that. She wasn't wrong. As sunset approached, attendants dressed me in ceremonial robes, white silk that flowed like water, embroidered with silver thread depicting wolves and moons. My hair was left loose, cascading down my back. No jewelry except Gisella's necklace, the silver wolf with moonstone eyes. When I looked in the mirror, I saw both women staring back at me. Adelheid and Gisela merged into one. The scared prisoner who'd expected to die and the confident Luna who'd loved and lost and found her way back. We were complete. Conrad came to escort me to the ceremony grounds just as the last light faded from the sky. "You look terrified," he observed. "I am terrified. What if something goes wrong? What if the bond doesn't take? What if you stop overthinking and trust that fate didn't bring you back from death just to fail now?" He offered his arm. "My brother has been insufferable all day, by the way. Pacing and growling and nearly taking someone's head off for suggesting we postpone. He's desperate to complete this bond. To make you his in every possible way. I want that too. You're afraid he'll hurt you again. Even though you remember it wasn't his fault, even though you've forgiven him, there's still that fear." Conrad's expression was understanding. "That's normal, Gisela. That's human. But I've watched my brother for 300 years. I've seen him punish himself, deny himself every happiness, live as half a person. He would rather die than hurt you again. You have to know that." "I do know it. In my head. My heart just needs to catch up." "Then let tonight be about the heart." He squeezed my hand. "Let go of the fear and remember why you came back. Remember what you're fighting for." We walked through the castle corridors, descending into the gardens where the ceremony would take place. I could hear voices already. Hundreds of wolves gathered to witness. News had spread impossibly fast, and packs from across the kingdom had sent representatives. Some to celebrate, some to observe, some to protest. All to see if the impossible was really happening. The ceremony grounds were breathtaking. A natural amphitheater carved from the mountainside, with stone steps descending to a circular clearing at the center. Torches lined the perimeter, their flames dancing in the evening breeze. Above, stars were beginning to emerge, and the moon, 3/4 full, hung low and silver. In the center of the clearing stood Ulrich, dressed in black leather and fur, looking every inch the Alpha King. His frost-colored hair caught the torchlight, and his pale blue eyes found me instantly. The mate bond hummed between us, stronger now than ever before, pulling us together. The crowd fell silent as I descended the steps. All eyes on me. Some looks were warm and welcoming, others cold and hostile. Most were simply curious, wanting to see the Luna reborn, the woman who defied death itself. I kept my eyes on Ulrich. He was my anchor, my home. Everything else was just noise. When I reached the center, Conrad released my arm and stepped back to join the royal guard. Ulrich and I stood facing each other, close enough to touch but not quite touching. The space between us felt electric. Hedwig entered the circle, her ancient voice carrying across the amphitheater. "We gather tonight to witness the rise of a Luna. 300 years ago, the moon goddess's chosen was stolen from us through betrayal and poison. Tonight she returns. Tonight, the prophecy begins its fulfillment. Tonight, the old ways transform into something new." She turned to Ulrich. "Alpha King Ulrich Waldman, do you claim this woman as your mate? As your Luna? As your equal in all things?" "I do." His voice was steady, but I could see his hands trembling slightly. "I claim Gisela Adelheid as my mate, my Luna, my partner, my equal. I claim her in this life and all lives to come. I claim her before the moon goddess and all assembled witnesses. And what do you offer as proof of this claim?" Ulrich reached into his pocket and pulled out a small knife, ceremonial silver etched with ancient runes. Without hesitation, he drew it across his palm, blood welling up instantly. He held out his hand to me, blood dripping onto the stone. "My blood," he said. "My life, my wolf, my soul, everything I am and everything I have. I offer it all to her. To us." Hedwig turned to me. "Luna Gisela Adelheid, do you accept this claim? Do you take this Alpha as your mate? As your partner? As your equal in all things?" This was it. The moment of choice. Could still walk away. could refuse the bond and live my life free of complications and danger. No prophecy, no responsibility, no risk of dying at the hands of the man I loved. But also no love, no completion, no daughter waiting to be born, no future worth living. I accept. My voice rang clear and strong. I accept Ulrich Waldman as my mate, my partner, my equal. I accept him in this life and all lives to come. I accept him before the moon goddess and all assembled witnesses. And what do you offer as proof of this acceptance? I took the knife from Ulrich's hand and drew it across my own palm. Pain flared, then faded as my healing kicked in. But I held the wound open, letting blood flow. I pressed my bleeding palm against his. My blood, I said. My life. My wolf. My soul. Everything I was, everything I am, and everything I will become. I offer it all to him. To us. Our blood mingled, flowing together, and the mate bond exploded into full life. It was overwhelming, a rush of emotions and sensations and knowledge. I could feel everything Ulrich felt. His love, his guilt, his desperate hope, his absolute devotion. And he could feel me, my fear, my forgiveness, my trust, my matching love. We were one. Truly, completely one. Hedwig began chanting in the old language, words that predated modern wolf packs. The crowd joined in, their voices rising in harmony. Even those who opposed the prophecy couldn't resist the pull of the ancient ritual. It was coded into our very DNA, the recognition of a Luna, the celebration of a completed bond. The chant built to a crescendo, and power surged through me. Luna magic activated fully, flooding my body with light. I gasped, overwhelmed, but Ulrich held me steady. His alpha power rose to meet mine, darkness and light twining together, balanced and perfect. Around us, the torches flared brighter. The moon seemed to grow larger, its light focusing on our joined hands. And in that moment I felt something else, a third presence in the bond. Small, waiting, hopeful. Our daughter. Finally ready to begin her journey back to life. She's here, I breathed. Ulrich, she's. I feel her. Wonder filled his voice. Our little one. After all this time. The presence pulsed with joy, with love, with anticipation. She couldn't speak, wasn't fully formed yet, but her emotions were clear. She was thanking us for finding each other, for giving her the chance to exist. Soon, she promised wordlessly. When you're ready, when the world is safe, come. Then her presence faded, returning to whatever space souls occupied between lives. But the knowledge of her remained. The certainty that our family, broken 300 years ago, would finally be whole. The chanting stopped. Silence fell. Hedwig stepped forward and raised our joined bloody hands for all to see. The bond is complete, she declared. Luna Gisela Adelheid is recognized by the moon goddess, by the Alpha King, and by all packs. Let any who oppose this speak now or be forever silent. The moment stretched. I held my breath, waiting for someone to challenge us, to protest, to attack. But the silence held. Even the wolves who opposed the prophecy recognized the power of what had just happened. This was sacred. This was undeniable. Finally, one wolf stepped forward, an elderly alpha from the Eastern Territories, a man I didn't recognize. He knelt, head bowed, in a gesture of submission and respect. Luna, he said simply. My pack recognizes your claim. We welcome the changes to come. Then another wolf knelt. And another. Like dominoes falling, wolves throughout the amphitheater dropped to their knees, acknowledging their Luna. Some did it joyfully, some reluctantly, but all did it. Because whether they liked it or not, the prophecy had begun. The Luna had returned. And nothing would ever be the same. The celebration lasted long into the night. The formal ceremony gave way to feasting and music and dancing. Wolves from rival packs mingled cautiously, beginning the slow process of building connections across old boundaries. It wasn't perfect. There were arguments and tense moments and more than a few wolves who left early in protest. But it was a start. Ulrich and I moved through the crowd together, our hands linked, the bond singing between us. We accepted congratulations and deflected questions about the prophecy with diplomatic non-answers. We smiled and played the part of happy mates, which wasn't hard because we were happy. Deliriously, impossibly happy. But underneath the joy, we both knew the real work was just beginning. Later, much later, we finally escaped to his chambers. The moment the door closed behind us, Ulrich pulled me into his arms and kissed me, the first real kiss since my return. It was desperate and tender and full of 300 years of longing. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. I still can't believe you're real. That you're here. That I get to touch you again. I'm real. I'm here. And you can touch me whenever you want. Smiled. In fact, I insist on it. He laughed, a sound I'd never heard from him before, genuine and light. I love you, Gisela Adelheid. I loved you 300 years ago, and I love you now. And I'll love you 300 years from now if fate gives us that long. I love you too. Both the man you were and the man you've become. The boy who caught me in the leaves and the king who rules a nation. All of you. We stood there, holding each other, savoring the peace and completion. But eventually reality intruded. The conspirators, I said softly. What will happen to them? They'll be tried publicly, given a chance to confess and provide information about other sympathizers. Then, he sighed. Then they'll be executed. By law, that's the punishment for treason. But I'll make it quick. Merciful. I won't become the monster they fear just to prove a point. And Frida. She'll go last. After she's watched all her co-conspirators face justice. After she understands that her life's work has failed. That the prophecy she tried to prevent is happening anyway. His voice was hard. She doesn't get easy forgiveness. Not after what she did to your parents. To you. I couldn't argue with that. Some crimes were beyond forgiveness. What about the Pax who sympathize with them? The ones who don't want change. We give them time. Show them that unity doesn't mean losing their identity. That cooperation doesn't mean weakness. And if they still refuse, he shrugged. Then we enforce the law. I'm still the Alpha King. My authority is absolute. But I'd rather have willing allies than resentful subjects. That's the difference between you now and you 300 years ago, I observed. The old Ulrich would have forced compliance. The new one seeks consensus. The old Ulrich hadn't spent centuries learning that fear breeds more fear. That power without wisdom is just tyranny. He pulled me toward the bed and we lay down together, fully clothed but intimately close. I don't want to rule through terror anymore. I want to build something better. With you. So what's next? After the trials, after the Pax adjust to the new order, we start implementing changes. Reorganizing the council. Creating new systems of governance that value merit over birth. Opening dialogue between Pax that have been enemies for generations. He paused. And we prepare for our daughter. My hand went to my stomach instinctively. She said soon. Do you think that means? Could be months. Could be years. Time moves differently for souls between lives. He covered my hand with his. But whenever she's ready, we'll be here. We'll protect her this time. Give her the life she was meant to have. What will we name her? Ulrich smiled. We had a name picked out before. Do you remember? I closed my eyes, reaching for the memory. It came slowly, filtered through centuries and rebirth. A conversation in our cottage, my pregnant belly between us, debating names late into the night. Lena, I breathed. We were going to call her Lena. After your mother. Yes. His eyes were wet with unshed tears. If you still like that name. I love it. Lena Waldman. It's perfect. We lay in comfortable silence, dreaming of a future that finally seemed possible. A daughter who would grow up loved and protected. A kingdom that could change and evolve. A mate bond that had survived death itself. But I knew it wouldn't be easy. The conspirators had sympathizers throughout the kingdom. Old beliefs didn't die just because we wanted them to. There would be resistance, pushback, possibly even rebellion. The prophecy spoke of unity, but it didn't promise that unity would come without cost. Ulrich, promise me something. Anything. Promise that no matter what happens, no matter what threats we face or how hard things get, we face them together. No secrets. No trying to protect each other by making unilateral decisions. We're partners now. Quills. That means trusting each other with everything. He was quiet for a moment, and I knew he was thinking about 300 years ago. About how he'd tried to protect Gisela by keeping her isolated from pack politics. About how that isolation had made it easier for the conspirators to poison him without her knowledge. I promise, he said finally. No secrets. No protection through ignorance. We stand together, or not at all. Good. I kissed him softly. Because I have a feeling we're going to need that unity for what's coming. You sound like a seer. Maybe I am a little. Luna magic includes prophetic visions, right? And I've been having dreams. What kind of dreams? I hesitated, not wanting to spoil the peace of the moment. But I just made him promise no secrets. I couldn't start breaking that promise immediately. I dream of wolves gathering. Thousands of them, more than I've ever seen in one place. They're divided, some following a silver wolf, others following shadows. There's a battle coming, Ulrich. Big one. The conspirators we caught today were just the beginning. The real fight for the future hasn't started yet. He tensed, his warrior instincts immediately alert. When? I don't know. The dreams aren't that clear. Soon. Within the year, I think. Maybe less. Then we use the time we have to prepare. To build alliances. To make sure that when the fight comes, we're ready. He pulled me closer. But tonight, just for tonight, can we pretend we're just two wolves who found each other against impossible odds? Can we just be Ulrich and Gisela, not Alpha King and Luna? I smiled against his chest. I think we've earned that. So we lay there, wrapped in each other's arms, the mate bond humming contentedly between us. Outside, the kingdom was changing. Forces were gathering. The future was uncertain and dangerous, and full of challenges we couldn't yet imagine. But in that moment, none of it mattered. 'Cause we were together. Because we'd beaten death and betrayal and 300 years of separation. Because our daughter was waiting for her chance to be born. Because love, real, true, powerful love, had proven stronger than everything that tried to destroy it. The prophecy was in motion. The Luna had risen. And whatever came next, we would face it the way we should have faced it 300 years ago. Together, equal, united. The Alpha King had marked me for death. But my tears had revealed the truth, that I was the Luna he'd lost forever. And in finding each other again, we'd found something more precious than either of us imagined. A second chance. A new beginning. A love that transcended time itself. This was just the start of our story. The real adventures, the challenges and battles and moments of joy, were still ahead of us. But we were ready. We were whole. We were home. The war came just as I'd dreamed it would. Packs who refused to accept the new order united under a coalition of old guard alphas. They called themselves the traditionalists, and they nearly tore the kingdom apart. But they underestimated our side. They underestimated how many wolves were tired of the old ways. How many had been waiting for someone brave enough to stand up and say, enough. They underestimated the power of a true Luna and her Alpha King fighting side by side. The Battle of the Three Peaks lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. Lives were lost on both sides. Wolves I'd come to know and respect, friends who'd stood with us from the beginning. The cost of change was high. But when the dust settled, we'd won. The traditionalists surrendered. Their leaders were given a choice: adapt or abdicate. Most chose to adapt. A few stubborn ones chose exile, leaving the kingdom to establish their own isolated packs in the far territories. We let them go. Unity couldn't be forced, and sometimes the only way forward was to let the past separate itself out. In the aftermath, we rebuilt. The new council formed, with representatives from every pack regardless of size or strength. Laws were reformed to protect the weak as well as honor the strong. Trade and cooperation flourished between packs that had been enemies for generations. It wasn't perfect. There were still tensions, still disagreements, still wolves who muttered about the old days being better. But it was progress. Real, meaningful progress toward the future the prophecy had promised. And through it all, the bond between Ulrich and me grew stronger. We led together, loved together, fought together. He was my partner in every sense of the word, and I was his. The monster of legend had become a king worth following. The broken prisoner had become a Luna worth honoring. And then, on a quiet spring morning with apple blossoms drifting on the breeze, I woke to feel a familiar presence in the bond. Stronger than before. Closer than before. Ready. Ulrich. I shook him awake. She's coming. Lena. Her daughter. She's ready. He was on his feet instantly, simultaneously terrified and elated. Now. Right now. Not this very second. Soon. Days maybe. We need to prepare. We spent the next week in a flurry of activity. Preparing a nursery, consulting with healers, making sure security was airtight. No conspirators would threaten this child. No one would steal our daughter from us again. When the labor finally came, it was Hedwig who attended me, the ancient seer who'd verified my Luna tears that first night. She held my hand through the pain, whispering encouragement, reminding me that I was strong enough for this. Ulrich stayed by my side the entire time, breaking every tradition that said alphas shouldn't witness birth. He held me, supported me, breathed with me. We'd promised to face everything together. That included this. And when our daughter finally entered the world, squalling and perfect and impossibly beautiful, we both wept. 300 years of waiting. 300 years of grief and guilt and longing. All of it ending in this moment, with new life cradled between us. Lena, I whispered, touching her tiny face. Welcome home, little one. We've been waiting so long for you. Her eyes opened, golden like mine with flecks of silver like Ulrich's. And in those eyes I saw recognition. She knew us, had always known us, had never truly left us, just waited for the right moment to return. The prophecy child. The one who would unite the packs and change everything. But also just our daughter. Just Lena. Precious and loved and finally alive. She's perfect, Ulrich breathed, his finger tiny in her grip. She's absolutely perfect. Of course she is, I said, exhausted and happy. She's ours. And as I drifted into sleep, our daughter safe in her father's arms, I felt complete in a way I'd never imagined possible. The Luna had risen. The Alpha King had found his mate. And the prophecy child had been born. Whatever challenges came next, whatever threats or difficulties or adventures awaited us, we would face them as a family. United. Whole. Unbreakable. The story that began with death and tears and impossible separation had transformed into something beautiful. Into hope. Into love. Into a future worth fighting for. And in the end, isn't that what all the best stories do? They take our darkest moments and show us that even from tragedy, something new and precious can grow. They remind us that love, true love, never really dies. It just waits for the right moment to bloom again. My name is Gisela Adelheid Brunner-Waldman. I am the Luna who died and returned. The mate who forgave the unforgivable. The mother of the prophecy child. And this is my story. Of death and rebirth, of love and second chances, of tears that revealed truth and a family that transcended time itself. Thank you for listening. May you find your own second chances. May your tears reveal truth instead of hiding it. And may you always remember that love, real, powerful, transformative love, is worth dying for. And worth living for. If this story touched your heart, if you believe in love that transcends death and second chances that defy all odds, please don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell, because there are more stories like this waiting to be told. Stories of wolves and fate and love that refuses to surrender. Share this video with someone who needs to hear about hope, about forgiveness, about the power of never giving up on the ones we love. And please tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I want to know where my pack is, where this story has traveled, where hearts like yours are beating in rhythm with Gisela and Ulrich's tale.